All right. So here is what is happening right now. In early December, this 2025, the government of Ghana deported 3 Israeli citizens, and this wasn't some routine immigration matter. This was a direct response to what Ghana's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is calling the traumatic and unjustifiable treatment of Ghanaian nationals at Israel's Ben Gurion Airport. And what is striking here is how fast it happened, because there was no drawn-out negotiations or any kind of waiting around. It was swift, proportional, and deliberate. So let me walk you through how we got here. On December 7th, a delegation of 7 Ghanaians, and this included 4 members of parliament, by the way, they were traveling to an official cyber security conference. They land in Tel Aviv and they are detained, just like that. After hours of interrogation, 3 of the 7 are denied entry and sent back to Ghana. Now, within 72 hours, and I want to emphasize that, 72 hours, Ghana, they responded. Israeli nationals that were arriving at Accra's Kotoka International Airport were denied entry and put on outbound flights. At the same time, Ghana's government summoned Israel's acting head of mission, the chargé d'affaires, for an urgent meeting. And the message couldn't be clearer. Disrespect towards Ghanaian citizens will be met with equal consequences. This is all happening, I should say, during a period where we are seeing some African countries take much more assertive foreign policy positions. So what I'm going to do here today is break down exactly what happened, the timeline of this confrontation, the specifics of Ghana's response, and what this could mean between Ghana and Israel going forward. Let's get into it. So Ghana initiates what can only be described as a significant diplomatic action, expelling 3 Israeli citizens in a direct, calculated response to Israel's deportation of Ghanaian nationals. And this move, it is signaling something. It is signaling a shift in how Ghana approaches foreign policy. Ghana's Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed the expulsions, and they didn't even mince any words while delivering their message. They said the decision was a consequence of the humiliating and unacceptable treatment their citizens endured in Tel Aviv. The catalyst, again, was that December 7 incident. 7 Ghanaians, including 4 parliamentarians, heading to a cybersecurity conference, detained and interrogated. 3 of them were denied entry and they were sent back to Ghana. Now, here is why this is notable. Ghana's response represents a departure from its historical diplomatic posture. I mean, think about it. Ghana has an existing agreement with the United States to accept deportees, and that policy has never involved reciprocal actions against US citizens. So this is different. The government framed this as a defense of national dignity. Samuel Okuzeto Ablakwa, that is, he's a member of parliament and the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He publicly articulated the government position. He said essentially that the mistreatment of Ghanaians will not be tolerated. But the incident at Ben Gurion Airport back in Israel, it involved details that went beyond a standard immigration dispute, because there is more to this. So what actually happened at Ben Gurion Airport? Because reports from Ghanaian officials, they are indicating that this wasn't a routine security check, not even close by any stretch of the imagination, because the delegation was subjected to prolonged detention and intensive interrogations. According to Ghana's official statement, the travelers' phones were confiscated during this hours-long ordeal. The 4 members of parliament, and remember, these are people traveling on official business with valid documents, they were treated as potential security threats. The foreign ministry described the experience as traumatic and added that the travelers appeared to have been singled out without, for lack of a better word, any clear justification. And I want to be clear here, this wasn't about irregular migration. This was about the treatment of accredited representatives of a friendly nation. The official nature of the delegation's visit made the detentions and the deportations particularly controversial back home in Ghana, because for the Ghanaian government, the handling of its elected officials by a partner country, this was seen as a breach of diplomatic respect. And that perception, it prompted the decision that the response had to be firm, a clear assertion of sovereign rights. So Ghana's government executed a direct and unambiguous countermeasure. Now, within 72 hours of the Tel Aviv incident, Ghana implemented its countermeasure because at Accra's Kotoka International Airport, 3 Israeli citizens who had just arrived were denied entry and placed on outbound flights back to Israel. Ghanaian immigration authorities processed the individuals, formally revoked their entry permit, and escorted them to their departing aircraft. Now, in justifying the action, Ghana's officials cited the principle of reciprocity under international law. They referenced the Vienna Convention as a basis for ensuring mutual respect and equal treatment of nationals between states. Samuel Okezo Ablakwa, he publicly articulated this new policy. He said Ghana was compelled to act and will now apply a proportional doctrine. His words were clear. For every Ghanaian citizen deported by another country without cause, Ghana will respond by deporting an equal member of that country's citizen. This marks a distinct change from Ghana's previous non-retaliatory approach, particularly when it comes to deportees from the US. The government action was intended to establish a clear standard for its international relationships going forward. But, and this is important, the deportations were just the first component of Ghana's official response, because there is more coming. In addition to the reciprocal deportations, Ghana took formal diplomatic action. They summoned Israel's chargé affairs to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Accra. With Israel's ambassador not in the country, the acting head of the mission was required to appear before senior officials. During that meeting, Ghana's government lodged a formal protest. They demanded a full explanation for the treatment of their citizens, accountability for the officials involved, and, or should I say, definitive assurances that such incidents will not be repeated. Ghana's protest was grounded in the international norm of reciprocity. The principle holds that states should treat foreign nationals in the same manner they expect their own citizens to be treated abroad. Now, Ghanaian officials also contested the justification provided by Israel for its actions. According to Ablakwa, a list of individuals provided by Israeli authorities for deportation contained inaccuracies, including a citizen of Gabon who was incorrectly identified as Ghanaian. And this discrepancy, it further solidified Ghana's position that the initial deportations were mishandled. But this diplomatic escalation between Ghana and Israel, it is happening within a broader geopolitical context that amplified its significance. So the diplomatic dispute between Ghana and Israel is not happening in isolation. It is happening at a time of strained Africa-Israel relations and a broader movement among African nations to assert their sovereignty on the global stage. The context here includes ongoing criticism from several African governments and civil society organizations regarding Israel's military operation in Gaza. Notably, South Africa had previously filed a case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. And then there are long-standing reports and accusations of racial profiling targeting African travelers at airports in the Middle East and Europe. That's part of the backdrop to this story. At the same time, Israel has made significant investments in diplomacy and partnership across Africa, focusing on sectors like security, agricultural technology, and intelligence cooperation. Ghana has been a key partner in these efforts with established bilateral cooperation in various fields. So Ghana's decision to retaliate, it was seen by many observers not merely as a bilateral issue, but as a symbolic act of continental significance. It represented a public refusal by an African country to accept treatment it deemed disrespectful from a global partner. The response from Israel to this assertive posture became the critical next phase. Now, following Ghana's reciprocal deportations and the formal summoning of its diplomat, Israeli officials initiated direct engagement with Ghanaian authorities. The goal was clear: de-escalate the situation. With the Israeli ambassador absent, the change the affairs in Accra served as the primary point of communication. And reports are indicating that Israel began urgent consultations aimed at protecting the bilateral relationships and its wider strategic interest on the African continent. Throughout this period, Ghanaian officials maintained a firm public stance. MP Samuel Okezo, he reiterated in public statements that Ghana's actions were legal, deliberate, and proportionate under international norms. He signaled that his government will not alter its position without a satisfactory resolution to this matter. And this clear, unwavering posture, it placed the onus squarely on Israel. Israel's economic and security partnerships in West Africa, as well as the presence of nearly 1,000 Ghanaian nationals in Israel, there were practical considerations in all of this. The situation demonstrated something significant, that a smaller country could leverage diplomatic principles to compel a larger global power to address a grievance directly. And the pressure applied by Ghana ultimately led to a resolution. Now, the diplomatic standoff concluded after Israel issued a formal apology to Ghana for the mishandling of its citizens at Ben Gurion Airport. The apology was confirmed publicly by Ghanaian officials. This resolution marked a notable moment in African diplomacy. An African state's firm reciprocal action led to a Western allied nation to concede fault. Following the apology, both countries agreed to restore normal relations, review airport procedures to prevent future incidents, and ensure mutual respect for each other's nationals. The incident established a clear precedent for what Ghanaian officials have termed a doctrine of proportional reciprocity. The policy sends a message that Ghana is now prepared to meet the unfair treatment of its citizens abroad with equal consequences. And this event, it may have broader implications for the continent of Africa, because other African countries could be influenced to adopt similar policies when faced with diplomatic disrespect. Foreign governments may become even more cautious in their treatment of African travelers, because this incident is now being viewed as a concrete example of an African nation successfully asserting its sovereignty and demanding dignity in the international system. Now, if you are watched to this point, this is Frontline Africa, where we talk about geopolitics from Africa's own point of view. It is not every time we bring you stories like this, and I must say I am impressed with how the government of Ghana, how Ghana handled this situation. Every other country in Africa will simply ignore it like it never happened, because almost every time they are always afraid. They are always afraid to challenge a non-African country, because we always see ourselves as inferior. But thank goodness, Ghana changed the story. They didn't back down. They didn't take the insult and disrespect and move on quietly like most African governments will react to such matters. And I am hoping that this example that Ghana have set with Israel will be replicated by every other country in Africa, because the disrespect the people with black skin are facing out there in international airports, in all their foreign destinations, it has to stop. Black skin does not mean inferiority. Black skin does not mean we are subhumans. We are as intelligent as any race can be on this planet, and we demand to be respected. And Ghana has set an example to this matter. Now tell us what you think about this. Are you impressed with how Ghana handled this? Because I sure as hell I am impressed. Drop it in the comment. And if you want to continue to see my content, maybe consider to subscribe and turn on those notifications. I am still your host, Ezekiel Enejeta, and I will see you in the next one. It's a bye-bye for now.